I like.
Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate you having me come out.
Good.
By the way, it's a lovely. I mean, your view here is pretty
It's good.
incredible.
It's nice. I mean, we're lucky, obviously. Performance as owner, a big business, and we come in and get the space in their office so we can pretend that it's ours, and I can bring fighters around. We're on the 30th floor of the Chase Manhattan office. This is how big we are. Oh, by the way, we just got the corner over there. So we're building a team of about 8 to 10. We've got Josh Roy, obviously ex-Banner and ex-Rock Nation. Sean Palmer running our legal side. Got another couple of appointments to announce later this week. Got Frank Smith, CEO, who runs our UK operation as well. So we're building a nice team. A couple of operations people being interviewed now. So it's exciting. It's fresh. Obviously, we've been doing great things in the UK, and this opportunity come along with the zone. And the thing about this was, it was our opportunity of a blank canvas. Everything from the shows, the venues, the production, the ring walks, the music, the fighters. We get to build it with them. And I kind of like to look at it as an opportunity to create something, I know it's a bit cheesy, but for the fans, by the fans, because that's what I am. I'm a boxing fan. And I've been going to shows since I was 8 years old. I've been around the sport all my life. I love watching boxing. It doesn't have to be our shows. I like the build-up, I like the shows, I love the fight. So I just feel that there's so much wrong with boxing worldwide, and this is our opportunity to try and change that. And the proof will be in the pudding.
And there's a million topics I can throw at you right now, but obviously the big one, Wilder Joshua, or I should say Joshua Wilder, since Joshua is the A side.
Well, apparently, yeah. Apparently there's no side, but
Well, I don't know. I think it's safe to say Joshua is the A side. I mean, he's got more belts, he's got a bigger following in the UK. So I kind of disagree with people that try and say there's no side. Joshua's definitely the A side. Fights obviously not happening next. Seems like negotiations broke down. I'm not really sure what the status is. I know you said the offer's still on the table. I know Deontay Wilder said 50-50. But I want to go back a couple years. February 2017, I think Deontay Wilder had just fought Gerald Washington. Fight's over, press conference. He talks for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I don't think Anthony Joshua's name ever came up. In fact, I think he even mentioned Joseph Parker is who he was targeting next. Then sometime between February and November, obviously the big Klitschko fight, Joshua won. So now he's got multiple belts, he's unified champion. I think that's when Deontay Wilder kind of changed his focus and started to demand that Anthony Joshua fight. Obviously, after he fought, I think it was Stavern in November, that's when I first saw Shelly Finkel pop up on the scene. And I think that was the first time he mentioned that you two guys had communication. I think he said it had something to do with the Dylan White fight. Can you kind of explain that whole scenario? I mean, was that the first time you had talked to them about?
Probably. I don't think it was till after that. I mean, actually, Shelley's comments, someone sent me a boxing scene comments, and these comments come and bite you in the arse, like that you make, and then 2 years later, they seem bizarre. And that was about the time, I think it was 2015 or 16, where Wilder, I think, was 34 or 35 and 0, and Klitschko's name come up, and Shelley said, he's not ready for a Klitschko. He's just a baby. We'll be ready for those unification fights in time. And this was when he was world champion. Anthony Joshua's had 21 fights, so. But then, like you say, Shelley just sort of popped up in the ring, and he was quite low key in the whole thing, really. And it was probably around the Takam fight, just after that, where we started to have communication. And we actually met just before a Danny Jacobs fight, and I think it was November. I met with Al Heyman and Shelley in New York, and that was I think that was after the Takam fight, because the Takam fight was October the 29th or something like that. So that was when we started talking. There wasn't really any. I didn't feel a burning desire from either camp, to be honest with you, just then to make the fight. We all felt that the fight would get bigger and bigger. They said they were ready to do the fight now. We said the same. But I think generally we both felt, and I think Espinosa felt, and other people felt that this fight could get bigger. Certainly after the Takam fight. I mean, it's twice as big now as it was 8 months ago. So. And that will continue to happen, by the way, whilst they're in their primes and whilst they're undefeated. that is a problem because it's in the heavyweight division and anything can happen. So it was really after that meeting that things progressed. And it was really around the Parker fight where things started to get interesting. He accepted an offer from Sky to come and do the commentary. And like a week before, I think Sky said, look, we could do an interview in the ring. The board have these rules about who can get in the ring, who can't. Like I spoke to Joshua about him getting in the ring, and he was like, are we fighting? I said, well, no, but obviously it's hype. He said, well, after I've just unified the belts, don't really want this guy getting in the ring, having limelight on my night.
Yeah, a lot of fighters are like that.
Yeah, but listen, I'll probably end up calling him in the ring because I'll be hyped. And, yeah, exactly. Like, where you at, Wilder, and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So, but Wilder said to Sky, I'm only coming if you confirm that I'm allowed in the ring. And they couldn't do that, obviously. So he threw his toys out of the pram, etc., etc. And then from there, it's just been really snowballing. So, Joshua said in the ring after, Wilder, where you at, blah, 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 blah. The Dillian White stuff was pre this stuff. So we offered like 3 million plus US TV, 4 million plus US TV. They talked about, we'll fight White, but it has to include Joshua. At first I was like, look, they're two different people, two different fights. Then we started talking about, actually, maybe we can marry those two fights together. It would have made sense, actually. But I don't think he wanted to fight Dillian White. And for that kind of money, looking at it now, he was probably right. Because he may lose to Dillian White. I fancy Dillian White may win that fight. And for $5 million, I don't think he wanted the risk. He never really showed a desire to fight Klitschko. Shelley made that clear, that he didn't want a piece of Klitschko back then after 34, 35 fights. He never really made an effort to fight Parker. I mean, they made him an offer, but I think it was like peanuts. So he's never really made an offer to a real big play to try and unify. Now I think he sees Joshua, maybe he feels like Joshua didn't look that good against Parker. It was a different kind of performance. After the Ortiz win, I think he's high, pardon the pun. And I think that he's full of energy and he's, he feels like he's on top of the world, he's unbreakable. He starts saying deluded stuff like, I'm two different people. And like, when he talks about a dead body in the ring, that wasn't me talking, that was the Bronze Bomber. I mean, that's weird stuff. But, he's definitely one person. So then things went on. Then Joshua was like, okay, let's try and make, let's look at the numbers, let's make him an offer. Now, we always appreciated that the UK, there was less money there than the US. Not masses, but definitely less money. So we made him an offer of $12.5 million to fight Anthony Joshua. We felt like it represented about 30% of the pot. Okay? So they didn't come back to us on that offer. They felt it was disrespectful, it was a joke, etc., etc. So Joshua was like, okay, move on. Then Joshua did an interview where he said, I've heard there's 100 million in the fight. Like, give me 50 million, I'll take the fight. And like, I suppose he regrets that now. I mean, he always wanted to fight in the UK, but he never said that in the interview. So that opened the door for them to say, okay, almost like a call in your bluff, So we get an email from Deontay Wilder to Anthony Joshua and to us, offering us $50 million for the fight. Full stop. Okay, so it's like, okay. Now you have to go through the process because obviously we know what's happening. Like, it hasn't come from Shelley, it hasn't come from Al, hasn't come from Showtime. It's come from Deontay Wilder, who, with all due respect to him, doesn't own $50 million. So I said to Joshua, what do you want to do? And it got his attention. He was like, okay. I mean, look, the guy's making a lot of money. He hasn't made $50 million yet for one fight, but he's not a million miles away, okay? So he's like, no, that's interesting. Find out more. I said, okay, well, let's get a contract and I'll talk to him about it. Funnily enough, this all dropped as I landed in America for Danny Jacobs Fight Week. So as I got to the I think it was a workout, bang, it hit, and all the journos were all over me. Wow, 50 million, what are you going to do, Hearn? What are you going to do now? It was clever. They picked up something that he said, not in jest, but, So I went back, I said, look, Anthony's interested, so can we have a meeting on Friday? And Shelley said, no, we're not having a meeting until you accept the offer. So I said, well, I'm not going to accept the offer, I don't really know a great deal about it. Can you send me a contract so I can see the terms? And then I'll tell you. No, we're not going to send you a contract until you accept the terms. I said, well, you're not really telling me a lot. You're telling me that it's 50 million. I mean, who's guaranteeing the money? Where's the money coming from? Where is the fight? What network's it on? Do we get any rights with our rights partners around the world with different broadcasts? So many different questions.
How much was Deontay Wilder supposed to make?
We didn't. I mean, look, who knows about that? But the other thing is they wanted us to accept the deal, and then lo and behold, when we look at the offer, we can't accept the deal, and then we've pulled out the fight. So great PR for Deontay Wilder. So I went back with some questions. This went on for a couple of weeks. In the meantime, I sat down with Rob McCracken. They wanted the fight in America, obviously. There was no offer, by the way, for a UK fight. I saw that Brendan Slob, or whatever his name is, saying, then they offered you 50 million to fight in UK. Absolute rubbish. They couldn't get the money together for that in the UK. So the 50 million was to fight in the US. And we don't have a problem with that. I understand, And people said, they guaranteed you the money. They never guaranteed the money. I didn't ask for the money to be guaranteed. We didn't even get that far. So I sat down with Joshua and the trainer, and they said, look, this is a big fight. We feel, being the A side, and everything you've done in the UK, and the size of this fight, the legacy of this fight should take place in the UK. If you lose, listen, maybe the rematch is in America. Fair's fair. He's the A side. So we went back and said, look, thanks for your offer. Sorry you couldn't send us a contract, but we'd like to make you an offer to fight in the UK for $15 million. Okay? Like 20% increase for our last offer. Nothing happened. My dad met with Shelley a while after that. They had a talk. They came back 3.5 weeks, I think it was, after our offer. We hadn't heard from them in that respect. And they said, and by the way, this offer wasn't, we will give you 12.5 million. This was, we'll give you 12.5 million, these are the terms, blah, 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 stuff about the rematch, etc., etc. They come back and said, we accept your offer and the terms, please send us a contract. So I went and said, no problem, but by the way, it's been nearly a month, and we've kind of made some progress with our September fight with Povetkin. So we can't go in September now because Canelo Golovkin's out, and the US broadcast won't back it. So let me work on the date. Everyone knew it was October, November. There's only one venue, Cardiff, and I'll come to you on a contract. On the Friday, I said I'd give it to you by Friday. On the Friday, I haven't finished it. I sent him an email and said, I need a couple more days. No problem. Take your time. Send it when you get it. Send it on Monday. Okay? We didn't hear anything back. I think they asked a question about, they didn't ask about the date. They said, can you confirm, we know you're working on the date, but can you confirm this is Joshua's next fight? I said, yes, we can. So that was cool. That was on like Thursday. Then on the Sunday night, he sends me an email to say, I'll be back to you with a contract on Friday, which was 6 days' time. I was like, well, you've already had a week. Why do you need another week nearly to give me your comments when you know your comments? Then he gave an interview the day after with Dan Raphael, which said, we've only got 2 small comments and we'll be back to them on Friday with them. So you know the comments, but you're not going to give it to us for another 5 days. But at that point, they knew the WBA was on us every single day. Don't forget, we went nearly 7 weeks over the deadline. Every day I was saying to Gilberto Mendoza, one more day, they're going to sign this contract, they're going to sign this contract, one more day. And eventually he saw that interview and said, no more, you're fighting Povetkin. They're not going to sign this contract. So it's confusing, and like you watch a Deontay Wilder interview and you think, like, maybe we did something wrong. But I'm sure there was faults on both sides. But I look at the fundamental facts, which are they had a contract for nearly 2 weeks that they weren't going to come back to us on. Why would you wait 2 weeks? Shelley Finkel is a little pit bull when he wants something, when he's got it in his mouth, when he's just ready to buy it. So if you want this so bad, I feel like they've done a disservice to their client if Wilder really wanted this fight. Because all they had to do was come back to me the same day or the day after, here's our comments, can we move forward? Pressure, 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 pressure. There was no pressure from their side at all to move this fight on and make the fight. Okay? So it was very weird, just weird all round. And then you look at Al Heyman and you think, this PBC thing, that's for another interview. But what's the main focus now of the PBC? Well, it's the World Heavyweight Champion, Deontay Wilder. So do you want Wilder to lose? Do you want that to be outside of the PBC? I don't know. And I heard Finkel's comments, which were, it's a bullshit deal, terrible deal. But Wilder decided to offer it. So if you've got the advisor who feels like it's a terrible deal, he's in no rush. He doesn't want his client to accept this deal. So he'll be doing everything he can to slow play it and to play it down. So it's weird all round. But there was no desire from their side to make this fight at speed, which is what needed to happen. Come on, pause that.
Okay.
Pause it and then we'll go and watch it.
Come on, do it.
Hey, this is it. Go to your hand.
Where's Clint?
That was a terrible penalty. He scuffed it.
Oh, wow.
That just saved the interview.
Get in.
All right.
Unbelievable. A little break for the penalty shootout. Get in, England. We are the worst penalty takers in the world. I think we have if it's 5% success rate in penalty shootouts, we are through to the quarterfinals. I'm just watching the last one here. Look, he even scuffed it. Look.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, it weren't great.
That wasn't a great shot. Yeah. Oh, thank goodness, because that was about to really mess up this interview.
Exactly. So, where were we? So, the whole thing's just, I don't know, like, I've taken a few bullets from American fight fans, and I don't know, it just feels like we did everything we could to try and make the fight. We were making the offers, we sent the contracts, and they just look like they slow played it. That's how it looks like to me. When I got the email on Sunday saying we'll be back to you the contract on Friday, I remember I phoned my dad and he was like, oh, excuse my language, fuck them off. He said, they're playing games with you, son. Like, why would you do that? You've already had it for nearly a week, you know? And that's where I wish that actually I could sit down in a room with Deontay Wilder. You know, after he maybe slapped me about a little bit, and just say to him, like, you do understand, like, you had the opportunity here, like, in a proper organisation. If the shoe was on the other foot and Wilder wanted this fight so bad and I represented him, as soon as I had that contract, it goes to my legal department. I want them back to me within a couple of hours, saying, I've read through the contract, this is my thoughts, etc., etc. Boom, you go straight back. But they said there was only two small points. One was a rematch point, which was already in the terms and agreement, which they accepted those terms, which they then went on and said we were going to accept that anyway. And the other one was the date, which they knew we were working on October and November, and they knew it was Cardiff. That's bullshit. But that's why I've turned the tables back and said, okay, so if you're accepting what you already accepted, regards to certain clauses, and you just needed to know the date's April the 13th, 2019. If you're so upset and you're so angry and you're so bitter that it hasn't fallen through, it's still there. If you want to be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world so badly, if you feel like you can beat Anthony Joshua so badly, why wouldn't you just come back now and either sign the contract, or if you do have any additional comments, just come back on them? We're going to fight Povetkin, our mandatory. You're going to fight Brazil, which you're always going to fight Brazil. And then we'll do it in April. But then to flick it back, right now it's 50-50. It's like, that smells of bullshit again. So it's frustrating to get, I mean, the British fans are a little bit pro our side, but the US fans have been very, and that's because Wilder's played a brilliant propaganda game. And a lot of the time I wonder whether this is just Wilder trying to increase his profile through Anthony Joshua. I'm not saying he doesn't want to fight, because he's a fighter. You know, these guys are special individuals. They're full of pride. And but they've done a good job, because they have increased their profile in the last 3 or 4 weeks, unquestionably. So, I don't know, it's all part of the game. And it frustrates fans, but the fight will be much bigger as time goes on, providing they don't lose. Unfortunately for Anthony Joshua, and I gave an interview, I think it was Behind the Gloves, where I said, I don't like the Povetkin fight. They used that quote, and then people went, Hearn, you're a joke. Now you're saying you don't like the Povetkin fight. The reason I don't like the Povetkin fight is because it's a fucking hard fight.
Tough fight, yeah.
And when you're talking about an undisputed fight at the end of the rainbow, now, let's just break things down. We'll talk about facts and statements. Anthony Joshua, after this fight, 22 fights, okay? He beat Charles Martin for the title. We don't know how good that win was because it was a risk at the time, and afterwards he apparently was just a joke. So he beat Dillian White, who, in my opinion, is top 5 heavyweight in the world. He beat Dominic Brazil. Okay, he's not the best, but he's top 10 in the ring mag. He beat Vladimir Klitschko. At the time, he was number 1.
Shelley felt he was ready for Vladimir?
Yeah. Well, Deontay wasn't apparently ready for Vladimir after 35 fights. Joshua boxed him in his 19th fight. Okay? So Joshua boxed number 1 in the Ring magazine. Now, the reason I use the Ring magazine is because when you use other governing body rankings, people go, oh, that's a bullshit ranking. So let's use the universal guy.
Sure.
So Joshua beats number 1. Joshua then fights Takao. I think at the time he was 8 or 9. He was the mandatory. Okay? Pulev pulled out. He was next in line.
Right.
Number 3 in the rankings. Beats him. Then he fights number 3 in the Ring magazine rankings. Joseph Parker. Beats him. Then we try and make the Wilder fight, who's number 2. Now he's fighting Alexander Povetkin. Povetkin's number 3 in the Ring magazine again. So if we can't get 2, we're fighting 3. He's had 22 fights. He's boxed Brazil, Klitschko, Parker, Takam, Povetkin, White. 5 of those guys are in the top 10 in the Ring magazine, and he's been through them already. This guy, he's had 40 amateur fights. You can't deny the speed that Joshua is moving at and his willingness to fight the very best. He's a competitor. He wants to knock Wilder out so bad. It's going to be sweet when he does it. But, and we don't want to be arrogant about, this A-side talk.
Right.
It's not even up for consideration. One guy's making $2.5 million a fight. The other guy's making 10 times that. The other guy's got multi-million-pound commercial deals. The other guy ain't got one sponsor. So it's not disrespect. He has what we want. It's the WBC world title. It's the final piece of the jigsaw. But that's why I offered Wilder $5 million for a September-October fight to fight who you want.
I was going to ask you why because that was on top of the original.
Because
offer.
I wanted to sweeten the offer. I wanted to say, look, you've already accepted the 15. And people say, that's a bullshit offer. It's not a bullshit offer. It might be between, I don't know, call it 35%. If it's a massive show, maybe a little bit less. I feel this is a 70-30 fight. Some people think it's a 60-40 fight. Okay, 65-35, it's got to be fair. But anyway, forget that. But he's accepted that. It's not like, oh, well, you made him a joke offer. He accepted that offer. Can't have been that bad. So, but what I wanted to do was, he said, oh, that offer's off the table. So I went back. He's going to fight Brazil. He's going to make $2.5-3 million, whatever. I'm going to give you 5, plus the Joshua fight. That's 20 million over 6 months. And he was trying to goad Joshua, saying, how can you turn down 50 million? That's life-changing money. Mate, don't worry about Anthony Joshua's life-changing money. That was made a long time ago. And he accuses me of being a bad promoter and all this. Mate, Deontay, if you had me as your promoter, your life would look very, very different right now. Be a hell of a lot sweeter. And there is this big bitterness of Deontay Wilder looking at Anthony Joshua. Why does this guy live in a country that is more than 5 times smaller from where I'm from, and he makes 10 times more money than me? The truth of the matter is, as Deontay Wilder, for his status and his position, he's probably the lowest paid heavyweight world champion of all time in terms of what he is. He's a great fighter. He's a great talker. He's a great athlete. He is an American heavyweight world champion. You could walk him down here in Manhattan, no one would even know who he is. Poor promotion. Okay? So don't attack me when you know deep down that this whole thing and your whole career right now is a mess in terms of your financials. How can you be making money like that? We're doing very well, thank you very much, nicely. We actually don't need the Deontay Wilder fight, but we want it because Joshua wants the glory. And even me, I want the glory. I got money. You know what I mean? And people say, Hearn, you're all about the money. That's why you've turned this fight down. Well, that doesn't make sense. I'll make much more money in the Wilder fight than I would in the Povetkin fight. But it's not about, oh, you're just draining the cash cow. What, fighting Povetkin? Mate, we could fill up stadiums fighting you. But Joshua wants to fight the best. He's not shaking the best. You know, he's not running from anyone. Parker unification. Klitschko, well before his time. Mate, he jumped into the Klitschko fight with 18 pro fights and 40 amateur fights. He's a novice. But he's still jumping in and he'll still beat Deontay Wilder. So it's interesting, you know, and we'll carry on. I want people to ask the question to Deontay and say, okay, look, forget the rants and everything. Are you going to sign this contract that you agreed to? Or at least go back with your comments. You can't just turn around and say, nah, it's off now. It's not happening now. That's not right. Like, you can't come out and you want this so bad, you want to give the fans what you want, and then just go, no, I'm not agreeing to that anymore, and just come out with a ridiculous request. So who knows what to believe. I would like to have a meeting with him and just say, you know, one, let's look at why you're earning such small money. And two, let's look at the Joshua fight. Let's look at a fight in September, October. Let's actually try and promote you properly and build you. It could be massive, Deontay Wilder. It's quite frustrating. And I guess he's frustrated as well because he's not been able to have a big fight. His biggest fight, his standout fight after 41 fights was Luis Ortiz, who probably an hour before that fight, he was off with high blood pressure. Like, he was lucky to get in the ring that night. And it was a great win, showed great heart. Now, this isn't a hating session on Deontay Wilder. I like Deontay Wilder. I think he's brilliant for boxing. But I just can't get my head around how you can have a guy like that. Like, he's really a promoter's dream in many senses. Yet he don't have a promoter. And yet, you know, there's guys out there who